All right, mate. So just to make a start, like one of the real like big reasons I wanted you on was because like we'll get to like your business and you starting up, but you've from like as long as I've known you, because obviously like if everyone knows, Tom's like really good friends with my brother, so I've kind of been around but not been around. Like you've always been really into the industry, like the vehicle industry. To like tell us a bit about that and how it started.
Yeah, so I guess anyone that knows me well is aware that I'm completely obsessed with cars, and it kind of made sense from a young age to try and make money in the automotive industry because I guess it's one of the only things that really interests me. So I had a traditional education route like most people, GCSEs, A levels. Then I was in like the last cycle of students in secondary school to qualify for the capped university fees. I think at the time they were capped at £3,300. So kind of the rhetoric was when I was in year 12, year 13, you really need to go to university because if you don't go now, the fees are going to go sky high and people will stop going to university because it's going to get crazy expensive. So I applied to go to Bournemouth University when I was in sixth form, which in hindsight was a bit of a mistake because I wasn't mature enough. I didn't want to learn. I was just going for like the social aspect. And I wish in hindsight that I'd just gone straight into work for a few years and got like proper experience.
You know that like a lot of people say that. Like a lot of people who have had say that like uni maybe may not been for them, but they went for like the social aspect to develop that side of it. Like leaving the home for the first time. Like that's a big thing. Like for me, like I went to uni and dropped out after the second year because I was like, I really don't want to do this anymore. But the social side of it, of like going away from home, having to fend for yourself, that kind of, a lot of people say that.
I lasted 1 month at Bournemouth. I just didn't have the skill set to look after myself, to be completely honest. And then I had a year basically working loads of different jobs. I was a gardener, I worked in a supermarket, I worked in a call center, and that was from 18 to 19. And I would say that was like really tough. Like all my friends had gone to uni, I'd managed a term and dropped out, blown all my cash, maxed out overdrafts, and proper, stuff was not going well.
Yeah.
And after about a year of working, various jobs, I decided to book a one-way flight to Australia with one of my best friends, Matt Ward. No plan, not much money again. We just managed to get, scrap a few savings together. Booked a one-way flight to Melbourne. And then, of course, within like 3 weeks, I was broke again because I just did not understand money management. Just when you're 19, what everyone wants to do is just go out, buy clothes you can't afford and stuff like that. So my first, I guess, proper job after leaving secondary school was doing door-to-door sales in Melbourne, Australia. And that was like the most difficult thing I've ever done. Like humbling. Like you think you're confident, but if 40 people slam their door in your face a day, that's going to make you a lot more thick-skinned.
I can imagine.
And I did that for months, man. And that was so difficult.
What was like the most difficult thing about it? Was it just because obviously it's like
trying to sell
calling.
Gas and electricity. I don't care about gas and electricity at all. Like really. So the most difficult thing was just trying to do something that I didn't believe in.
Okay. Did you feel like you got more skills like from? Because I imagine like a sales job, if you're like, because me, for like, I did a similar sales job. I was quite introverted, but then having to actually make the sales, you got to be a bit loud in people's face, make them actually buy the product. Did you feel like you gained anything from that aspect of the job?
Yeah, I gained a lot about, trying to put together a pitch, mirror people. And, I have a tendency to like go on a bit to kind of being succinct with how I deliver information, so I was very thankful for that experience, but that experience also taught me like, I do really want a university degree and I do want a proper education because I don't want to be knocking people's doors trying to sell stuff for the rest of my life. So I actually applied for university again when I was out in Australia in Bristol and had interviews with people at UIN and managed to get accepted onto another course. But I continued my travels through Australia. I did some hitchhiking through New Zealand. Did some more sales work in Sydney in a contact centre, which was like charity fundraising for the Australian Red Cross. Did really well at that. Made some good money, got a load of donations for charity, and then continued my travels up the East Coast. And then did like lots of random work on the way, farm work, stuff like that. So I was out in Australia for a year, but always knew ultimately like my home was in the UK. And that was just really kind of a period where, as cliche and as cheesy as it sounds, I was just trying to find myself, because I feel like after school for the first year, I was just so lost. When I've been to Bournemouth and dropped out and worked in various jobs, I wouldn't say I was ever particularly happy, and I just found it tough. Whereas Australia was, really new and exciting and got loads of life experiences. But when I came back from Australia when I was 20 and went to university again, I was so motivated. I was like, right, I'm gonna smash this. Like I'm gonna get a first. I'm going to set up some businesses. Like I'm all in. So I went to university the second time at 20. So when still not knowing what I wanted to do, but obviously, like you said at the start of the podcast, cars had always been my passion. And I'd applied to do a practical business course in Bristol, where there was no exams, no lectures, and the whole ethos of the course was like setting up your own businesses. So I did loads of different things when I was there, from like running nightclub events to flying for local businesses, buying and selling cars, just like literally anything I could do. I was just so hungry, having like gone, dropped out of Bournemouth, like going broke so many times, just to try and get something to stick.
Yeah, I suppose like stuff like that can go either way. Like it can really motivate you. Like in your case, it can really motivate you to think, oh, like when you get into reality, like, oh, I've actually got to do something. I've got to find something and do it. Or it can go the other way, where I see loads of people like you were saying, in the same situation, where they go the other way. They go recruiting, they get stuck in certain jobs, and then now it's like 10 years later they're still in those. So it can go either way, can't it?
Yeah, and I think like you need bad times to appreciate the good times. And I'm so thankful. I've been a gardener, I've worked in supermarkets, I've failed at university courses, because it's all experience, and you need experience, good and bad, to shape your character. And if stuff always went well, you would be such a weak person.
Yeah, I think so.
I think going to university in Bristol was what really made me built like a really good support network with people that I still kind of have involvement with businesses today. During my second year of university was kind of when I took a deeper delve into the automotive industry and also the advertising industry. So I tried to build a business called Cash for Space, where I built up a database of drivers that lived in Bristol that owned vehicles, and they commuted to offices Monday to Friday, and they were willing to have an advertisement down the side of their car promoting a local business. What I did was I profiled all these drivers. So I knew what their weekly mileage was, monthly mileage, where their cars were stored, what car they owned, had pictures of the cars. And I basically used all this data to approach local businesses like bars, restaurants, and nightclubs to say, look, I've got this database of drivers that are happy to have your business's branding down the side of their vehicles. And I have vinyl wrappers in Bristol. Do you want to get something started? And again, to be honest, that didn't go massively well. I got a few deals done with businesses, but the difficulty I had there was quantifying their ROI on that advertising. So, the only way I could have got around that was potentially putting a black box in the person's car to statistically prove where they were driving. Whereas the information they were telling me might have been factual. And of course, they might have told me that they worked in an office and commuted 20 miles to work, and therefore the advert would have been seen by so many people. But people change jobs, circumstances change. So that business never really took off. But Thetis from Dragon's Den did invest in a similar business model called CarQuids, and I think they had reasonable success. And the way they kind of made it a success was by actually tracking people's movements by black boxes.
How old were you at this point?
21.
21. Oh, okay. So
21.
I suppose that's a good sign then. Like you at that age, you're thinking already, I'm gonna start my own thing, and that idea, it's out there. Like not many people would think of that.
Yeah. So and then moving into my final year of uni, obviously I tried loads of things. Not most of it hadn't worked out, and I was still thinking, what do I want to do? So I figured, I guess I need to do more stuff with cars, because that's what I'm interested in and that's what I'm knowledgeable about. So I started making videos on YouTube reviewing cars, basically any cars I could get off a friend, family friend, and started getting, reasonable success with that. I think my first video, my dad had bought like one of the first Golf R's in the country, which is like a hot hatch. And I did a review of that, and that got like, I think 5 or 10,000 views in the first month. And I was like, crikey, okay, might be onto something here. So I was doing that alongside my final year of university, but never figured out a way to monetize it. I was just doing it for fun, basically. And then when I graduated university, again, for the second time, I was kind of like, what do I do now? And to be honest, I actually found it really difficult to get a job when I left university, when I left Bristol, because I probably had like unrealistic expectations about the sort of job I was going to walk into. I was like, right, I've got all this business experience. I've got a first. I'm going to walk into like some, really high paying job easily because, I've got all this experience. And the fact is, like, when you're 21, you might have had a few small ventures and you might have a first. You still know nothing really.
Yeah.
So I went to so many job interviews and got rejected from like marketing agencies, PR agencies. And in hindsight, I think it's probably because I was coming across arrogant, not very well, not informed on the businesses. So that, again, I find that so difficult. I think I probably, got turned down by like at least 10 or 12 companies after finishing uni with all that experience in the first. And it wasn't until I think I graduated in June. I went to London very briefly. I did some work experience at Auto Express as a motoring journalist. Decided that wasn't for me. And then from June, July, August, September, October, and November, I just got declined from so many jobs, which again, I look back at it and I'm just so grateful for, because you need those like little knockdowns and reality checks. And then in December, like 6 months after graduating, I got a job at Tailor. So I guess that was my first proper job in the automotive industry in sales. And that was great. Like I was so excited. When would this be? I think end of 2016. You didn't see many Teslas on the road, so people buying them were all really wealthy. They were kind of 65 to 140,000 pound cars, and it was great driving them. And we went on some amazing events around the UK. But the best thing was always meeting the people buying them. Because people buying those Teslas back then had interesting stories.
What was it like then? You come out of uni going into that job as, okay, this is like a first big steady job. What was that like? Just into that.
I think first of all, I was relieved to have a job, because after I got turned down from so many jobs, I did massively doubt myself, and it massively knocked my confidence as well. Because I would say all of my friends that I graduated from Bristol that year had either gone into jobs pretty quickly or had businesses that were making money and they were, sustainable. And I was like, crikey, I've tried all these things, they've all failed, and all my friends are either running businesses or they've got these jobs. Like, why can't I, make an income? So my first honest feeling was like relief, excitement, and then there was just a good bunch of people there, like a really good vibe. So I kind of immediately felt like I fit in and I was in the right place. A young team. So I was just happy and excited to see what the future would hold at Tailor. And kind of while I was working there, I was always still filming for my YouTube channel on the side as well, which I will be honest, at some points people in Tailor weren't massively happy about, because I'm selling Teslas for a living, and then you might see a video of me on the internet with 30,000 views bigging up some Volkswagen. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Some people thought that was a bit, hypocritical. I was supposed to be this all EV green guy selling electric cars, which you can see on YouTube getting about in old Porsches and stuff.
I remember your YouTube channel. I used to actually really like those when they came out, because you'd be doing like certain different cars. Like at the time they were quite big. I thought like that.
I think I did like 500,000 or 600,000 views across all the videos when I finished doing it. So I did some decent numbers. And it was kind of filming those videos that enabled me to get my next job, which was at an automotive PR agency in central London. And I've been at Tailor for a while, and I thought, this is I've really enjoyed this, but I felt like my career was probably going to be better suited in kind of like a marketing, PR, kind of content creation, a more creative role ultimately. I didn't see myself as just like a straight up salesperson. So I got a job at an automotive PR agency. And I guess that was when I first started to get the skills and understand the business model, which I kind of use for my business today, Supercharged Media. So I was working at a PR agency where we had like clients who were like classic car dealers or car auction houses or people that manufactured tires and oils. And my job there in PR was to either manage their social media or write press releases, which is effectively where you find out what news is going on in your client and think of how you can turn that into a story, send it to relevant media that would be interested. So they'll write about it in their magazines or publish it on their websites. So your client gets, coverage, website traffic, links, which is good for SEO, maybe sales inquiries if your client has a vintage Ferrari or something for sale. So I was in London doing that for just over a year and a half. And I kind of used the experience I was getting there to get my own clients outside of the agency for social media management, which is what I do now full time for a living.
Okay, perfect. So that's just where we're going now. So do you think that PR jobs, because we're just getting to sort of you about Supercharged Media, but do you think that PR job is what sowed the seeds of what you do now?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm so grateful for it. I always knew, like, deep down, I didn't want to be in London. Like, personally, it put quite a lot of strain on my relationship with my girlfriend, Alice, who I've now been with for 5 years. I moved to London. I gave her very little notice, maybe like a week or two, and then just like left, which was awful. But you kind of have to be selfish when you're young if you want to build your career. And it did put a lot of strain on my relationship, but I kind of stuck it out because I recognized what I was learning was so valuable, and just understanding how to sell like a marketing or PR service into a business. And that definitely was what gave me the idea for Supercharged Media. And I was able to get my first client. It wasn't Supercharged Media then, I was just effectively freelancing on the side, but it was working at that PR agency which enabled me to build the skills and understand how to do what I'm doing now.
Okay, so you mentioned before, like, 'cause you mentioned you tried to start a business for. So had you always had a vision of eventually I want to start my own business? Like, had you known that like quite early on when you were younger?
So like my dad's got a successful business. He's in planning, but he kind of set up his business later on in his life after he was made redundant after working somewhere for like 30 years. Set up a business. It's since been really successful. And he always kind of said to me, like, I just wish I set it up like at least 10 years earlier, but I just always played it too safe. And my dad has always been like, just get into business a lot earlier than I did because you can do it, don't play it safe. But for me, it was all about like timing, and I'm quite risk averse as well. So although I got one client when I was in London, it was just effectively helping a friend who'd started a business, and, I was doing him a good deal, but I recognised I could add value and grow his business and get a bit of extra income. And then I got another job after I spent time in London where a client recommended me to a Chinese funded startup manufacturing electric vans. And I was employed there as a sales and marketing manager. And that was great because I kind of always, I think I quickly realized at Tesla I was never suited to like a big company. I always thought I would do better in a smaller company where my role would be more varied. So when I got offered the job at the startup, when I was in London, I was really excited because I thought small team, lots of responsibility. Let's see where this goes. So that was great. I moved back from London to Stratford and started working for this electric van manufacturer. And I kind of worked in a small team that assisted launching a new electric van to the UK media. So we got, the national media down, the automotive media, the EV media, influencers, people like that, and unveiled this van. And that was really exciting. What basically happened was a company had bought the rights to a brand which was quite big back in the kind of 1910s to the 1960s called Morris commercial, which was, have you ever heard of the Morris Minor? You might have heard of that before.
No, I'm terrible with cars.
I'm terrible with cars. It was like a car and a commercial vehicle brand, which was really big back in the day. And basically like a Chinese company bought the rights to this brand, and they were going to use that brand name to like re-release a new electric van, which had the styling of a classic vehicle, but with like modern technology. So it was a really kind of unique proposition. And I was kind of, part of that small team that had launched it to the media. So,
okay. So how long did you do that before and to starting your business?
So when I was at the electric van manufacturer, I was still pitching for new clients. And I guess I secured my second client when I was at the electric van manufacturer. And it was at the point when I was just about to secure my third client where I realized, well, wait a minute, I might have a business here. And I've always been someone who's like fully thrown myself into whatever I was doing. And I just remember having a conversation with my dad, and he's like, well, now you're going to start working with this third business. You're spending a lot of hours at work. And if you focus those hours on your business, in the long run, you're probably going to be a lot better for it. And it was kind of that gentle push from my dad. And then I rang up a few of my clients and a few friends that have always given me advice, and they were just like, go for it. You've got nothing to lose. You've already proved the business model. There's an element of risk, but that makes life exciting. So go for it. And that was when effectively, I guess, Supercharged Media was born, which was February of this year. So I left full-time employment on the 27th.
February of 2020, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so you've had this combo like with your dad, you said he's telling you go for it, and a couple of your friends. Had you had any, like, what had you had set up? Had you had any, because obviously you'd thought about, okay, eventually I might want to start my own thing. This is something. Had you had anything set up in place to make a start yet?
So I hadn't registered the company, so the Supercharged Media name didn't exist. I didn't have a website. All I had was essentially my laptop, a couple of clients, and that was the only thing I had set up. But my logic was, if you're going to start a business, it makes sense to do it whilst you're in full-time employment, so you have an income. So you already have something that will pay the bills, and then you can just focus on growing it from there. And I've always been quite frugal with my money, so I had cash in the banks, and I thought, if it doesn't go well, I've got time to figure it out. Do you know what I mean? I'm always quite risk averse in that respect. I wouldn't just like leave a job with no money to start a business unless I'd kind of already proven the concept, if you like.
Okay, so where did you go from there? So you started off with some people who you've been doing some stuff on the side with. Where did it go from there?
Yeah, so I guess for my first month, March, I was just focused on trying to figure out, okay, so let's build a website and let's try and figure out kind of the companies I should be selling my services into. And then kind of April, sort of May time, I was speaking to existing clients and trying to figure out whether they could put any other referral business my way. And I'll be honest, for the first probably 6 months, all of my new work came from just referrals. And I guess I kind of hit the ground running quite quickly, because of course, when I left full-time employment and set up Supercharged Media, within like a month of that happening, COVID struck and we're in lockdown. And I was thinking for a minute, oh crap, have I like chosen the worst time to start a business? And people were saying to me like, Tom, man, I feel so sorry for you. You've just left like a good job and you're, starting a business, and now there's COVID. And I don't know, maybe I always just thought, well, it's just not going to affect me because I'll just figure out a way to kind of work through it, and touch wood, so far it hasn't. And kind of the first 6 months kind of got a lot of referral work, which kept me busy all throughout the summer, doing various things. So kind of like predominantly what I do, I do digital marketing for automotive businesses, but predominantly what I do is I manage Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn accounts for companies, and also run ads across Instagram and Facebook. Also like redevelop websites, but that's not something I promote that much. And kind of, when lockdown first started, everyone was hopping online really. So I guess it kind of did play into my favor, and, kind of e-commerce boomed. So I do think in some respects, my industry is sort of COVID proof.
That's funny you say that, because I had George on a couple pods back, and he said the exact same thing. Because through the pandemic, there's businesses and industries that have gone down, but there's loads of other industries. Like George was saying, like last year of business was more than he ever thought, because for some reason in lockdown, people buying houses. For myself, I'm based in healthcare, like business, boom. So there's some industries that's been the case with, hasn't there?
Yeah. Well, and it's the same with, you should get George Bowers on the podcast. I know in 2020, they had their best year. They do PPE. So, gloves, hard hats, sanitizers, and
oh God, I can imagine. I can really imagine.
Obviously, I'm not going to say numbers and stuff on the podcast, but they've had a good year. They had a good year.
I can imagine, because for us, the PPE companies that we used to use, they've like tripled their prices, because obviously the demand's gonna absolutely crazy. So sort of going back to where you said, like when you started, a lot of the work you got to was word of mouth. Do you think that? Do you think? I think that's a really good thing. That's the best advertisement, because being referred by someone you trust, that gives you as a new business a certain level of trust. Do you think that helped you more? Did you use any other type of advertisements or anything like that?
I'll be honest, I've only properly started pushing my own services this year. I think one mistake I did make was, for all of 2020, I solely relied on referral work, which I think, because I only predominantly work with automotive businesses, it's easier for me to get referrals. Because say if I do some paid media stuff for an MOT station, he might chat to his mate that has recovery trucks, and he might chat to his mate that has a car dealership, and he might chat to his mate that has a vinyl wrapping business, and kind of, I think it's a bit easier to get referrals if you just specialize in one industry. It's easy to get a reputation for something. But I wish I'd started kind of documenting my journey as soon as I went self-employed and kind of advertising my services. But my kind of mindset was, for the first year, I'm just going to be quiet, focus on like developing my skill set, focusing on like earning money. And I think that was important for the first year. I really don't like these kind of like gurus who kind of, they're really young online, and they're like, oh, give me £400 for this course and you'll become, a millionaire overnight. I think sometimes you should know when you should like keep your mouth shut and just like put your head down. And kind of for the first year, that was the thing. I've just invested so much time in kind of learning my skill set.
Okay, so what were... we'll get to what your one was like, but for you, in terms of finding clients, now that you're effectively going into year 2 now, because we're in Feb. Yep. What's the difference? Is there a difference between how you find clients now to how you did beforehand? Because before it was just word of mouth. Yep. What other stuff have you implemented?
So this year, kind of, I took some time in January to think about how am I going to advertise my services. So obviously, I recommend a lot of car businesses to run ads on Facebook and Instagram. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm running case studies of how I've helped businesses grow as Instagram ads. So I'm testing different audiences, trying to get them in front of the right people. So people that own automotive businesses. I'm going quite heavy on LinkedIn. So connecting with a lot of automotive business owners, kind of sharing stories of my journey. Advertising on LinkedIn is a bit more expensive. So it's, I think you have to spend a minimum of £8 a day. So what's that? About £250 a month minimum to advertise on LinkedIn. Whereas Instagram's much cheaper. You can advertise for £1 a day. So if you just want to test something, it's cheap. So I guess LinkedIn content and Instagram advertising are the two things I'm pushing at the moment. And I do have a blog for my website, so I'll be writing more content for that to try and get some organic traffic. And I'm going to test a PPC campaign as well, so Google AdWords.
Okay, so what if I'm a automotive company looking for an advertiser, what would be your pitch to me? Like, what would your pitch to me to help me take my business to the next level be?
Well, it depends on what sort of business you run ultimately, because that would depend on kind of what the marketing strategy would be. So, I mean, it's quite simple for like some business. The easiest businesses to get results for are like local businesses that like serve a specific catchment area. So say if you have like an MOT station that services and MOTs cars, like typically your customers will be in a 20-mile radius of where your garage is. So the best thing you can do is hop on Facebook and Instagram and, let me send a photographer into you once a month to get some nice content of your team at work. So, you've got all content that is professional and a good reflection of your business. You can get someone like me that's a good writer to put that on social media, with the right copy, at the right time, with the right hashtags. And then ultimately you just run them as ads in the local area. And marketing is all about the offer. So if you're trying to promote a local MOT or garage station, you want to be putting an offer in front of your local audience, which makes your services look appealing. So it might be, a free health check for a vehicle or services from £49 or,
Okay.
So that's kind of how to pitch it to an MOT garage. But what if you had maybe a business which kind of specializes in classic cars? I might tell you how for one of my clients in 18 months, I've taken them from 0 to like 28,000 followers across Instagram and Facebook through, media relations and running ads and good content. And so I might just give them a case study. So kind of my approach will always vary based on the type of business.
So like the big selling point is you tailor yours to that individual, based on what theirs are in the market and things like that.
Yeah, because obviously like what will work for one automotive business won't necessarily work for the other. So like you always need to tailor your marketing strategy, if you like. But kind of one thing I do know is that for most businesses now, if you're not advertising on Facebook and Instagram, especially, basically all businesses in the automotive industry, you're losing out on like valuable consumer attention. And it's such an effective way to get in inquiries. And, I was chatting to a client this morning that wants to add like an e-commerce revenue stream into his business. We're talking about how we can do that. He's got a lot of customers. He's got a lot of followers on social media. So we've got the data. So he's trying to figure out how to add this e-commerce revenue stream to his company. In fact, I'm chatting to 2 clients at the moment about that.
Okay. Now that we were going into year 2, that we're right into year 2, what are your big takeaways? Like, what are the big takeaways from year 1?
Personally, my own takeaways from running a business?
So what have you learned? What do you think? Okay, the first one then. What have you learned now that you didn't know then?
I think, what have I learned? Start documenting your journey straight away. Like, even if you're not a professional, that's fine. Try and like document your journey in like a kind of authentic way to start building up an audience from day one. I think a big thing I've learned is just like, if you go self-employed and it starts going well quite quickly and you're earning more money than you were in employment, just save that money. Save that money, because like things certainly quietened down for me at the end of last year. And it's only because I've been saving my money and started investing it last year that was fine. Do you know what I mean? I can have a breather. So I think a big takeaway is if you go into business, be very, very frugal with how you spend your money. Just save, try and invest. And the biggest takeaway I'd say is try and surround yourself with people that are further down their journey than you are, but in the same industry. So I've always been quite good with like networking, got a lot of friends that run businesses. And I was lucky enough through a project I was working on during the summer. I was basically involved in sourcing a lot of kind of high-end valuable classic cars and supercars for a project I was involved with where we were filming them for a client. So I was kind of speaking to people that had, £300,000 Lamborghinis, £200,000 Ferraris, all that kind of stuff. And I met one person in particular who's very big in e-commerce, spending tens of thousands of pounds on Facebook and Instagram ads. And, as soon as I met him, nice guy. And I thought, definitely got a friend here, but also someone that can mentor me. And I've since worked very closely with him. So kind of, I guess the biggest advice I'd say is just build a support network of people around you that can give you good advice and that are qualified to give you good advice as well. Because as useful as my dad has been for me setting up a business, he probably can't give me advice on, digital marketing. But someone that spends £20,000, £30,000 a month on Facebook and Instagram ads, is very qualified to give me advice.
Absolutely.
So I need to be speaking to them as regularly as possible.
What's the change been from going from being employed to then it's your business? What's the difference for you?
I'd say I'm a lot happier. I'd say I'm the happiest I've ever been. 2020, for so many different reasons, for me was just a good year. And I don't want to I know COVID and, there's been a lot of health implications and bad things happening to the economy. So, but from talking about my personal experiences, I just am a lot happier. I just feel like I'm learning a lot more. It's nice to be earning slightly more money. And it's nice that my girlfriend was made redundant in June and I was able to she now works with me on Supercharged Media and another e-commerce business we run together. And I feel like that's really empowering, being able to kind of, have your own clients and kind of sustain yourself. And I just feel really grateful. But I'm also self-aware that I'm only a year into this, and it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and I've still got a lot to learn. So.
And I suppose, you were saying about empowering. It's different, you working for someone, but knowing that that's your baby, that's something you've made, isn't it? It is very, very different on that side of it. To finish up before we go to the Q&A, because I've got a few Q&A questions here. What's your plan then? Have you looked at having a 2, 3, 5 year plan? Have you looked at that?
I'll be honest, no. And that's something I'm sitting down with Alice. At the moment, we're trying to figure out, what should our yearly goals be, monthly goals, weekly tasks. Since Alice has started working with me, she's been really good at putting processes into the business. So, she's recently redeveloped my website. She's telling me you need to market yourself more. You need to do A, B, and C. So that is something we're working on. I kind of have, I guess, an overall vision of where I'd like my professional career to be in the next 3 to 5 years. And a big thing for me is I kind of realized in my last few jobs when I was at the agency or selling cars at Tailor or working for the electric van manufacturer that I want to be able to make a living from a laptop, but effectively be anywhere. So I really want to have a business or a couple of businesses which I can effectively run from anywhere in the world, as long as I have a laptop and a good internet connection, obviously, so I can speak to people. So I don't want to open an office for Supercharged Media. I don't even necessarily want to employ people. I'm sure I will work alongside people and collaborate on stuff and maybe use some freelancers. But a big thing for me is just kind of, I guess, lifestyle design. So I want a good, healthy amount of clients where Supercharged Media is doing well. And alongside that, an e-commerce business where I'm using my skills with, website design and kind of Facebook and Instagram ads to be selling a physical product. So that's something I am testing at the moment. And Alice and I run a business together called Muscle Magic. And basically we have a Shopify store where we sell massage guns. So we have an agent out in China who has contacts with lots of factory owners out there, and we drop ship them from China. And I think for me that adds a lot of credibility, because if I'm approaching you and saying you have a business where you vinyl wrap cars and by advertising on Facebook and Instagram you can acquire X more customers a month, I feel like I'm a lot more credible presenting that proposition to you as a business owner if I personally spend a good chunk of money of my own each month on Facebook and Instagram ads.
Yeah, because they can kind of see what you're doing with your venture and say, okay, well, it's work. He's making it work for him. Can he put that into our side? Yeah.
And I just think what kind of the last year has shown is e-commerce is booming, and it makes sense to try and get into it now.
Very, very, very much so. So now I picked out a selection of 4 QAs that are from ones I put out the other day. So the first one is, what's been the most difficult thing about running your own business?
I guess work-life balance is one. And knowing when to switch off, knowing when you're trying to do something, but sometimes I might be trying to write an email at 10 o'clock on a Sunday evening and Alice would be just put your laptop down, I don't want to see it. and I'll be like, no, I need to finish it. And sometimes you just need to realize if you're tired, it doesn't matter if it's 6 o'clock, just close your laptop, go and make some nice food, have a beer and chill, because you're tired and you're not going to be productive. And it doesn't matter if you want to push things forward. You could spend 2 hours on something tonight that in the morning you could do in 10 minutes. So just like having the self-awareness to know how you like best perform and knowing what environment you need to put yourself in to perform. So that might be, don't feel pressured to wake up at 6:30 in the morning and set an alarm. Wake up at 8, have a good breakfast, start work at 9, but just when you start work, be on it, be well fueled, be well slept, and be in a good mindset. So yeah, just kind of, I would say that's what's been the biggest difficult thing. Know when to switch off and understanding how I work best.
I think that's a good piece of advice, because I remember when I started out, like you look at like your favorite entrepreneurs and they portray that they're working this and that. And I was thinking, okay, to get to where they are, I'm going to have to be doing silly hours, getting up at 5 till late at night. And then it's just like, no, I found what works for me. Like you're saying, I'll take the odd day where I go into the office like a couple hours later, take some time for myself. So that is a really, really important thing, to find what works, what works for you to be the most productive.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that you don't have to work hard. Like going self-employed, you're gonna have to put in a lot more hours to work. Just like self-awareness, figure
balance,
figure yourself out, and but you need balance. Yeah.
So so this one's for you. What benefits do companies get from working with you?
I guess the main benefit is I'm not like a generalist agency trying to market a coffee shop, trying to market a clothing brand, trying to sell iPhone cases. I only work with automotive businesses. I've sold Teslas. I've worked for one of the country's most respected automotive PR agencies with huge clients, manufacturers, big car companies. I've launched a new electric van to market and got coverage, international coverage, in some of the biggest newspapers and magazines. I've only ever really worked in the automotive industry, and I'm probably only going to continue to work in the automotive industry. So I feel like I know what I'm talking about. I kind of know my industry, and I'm going to stick to it. And I guess a big benefit as well is like with a lot of it, marketing agencies, if you want to call myself that, although I don't think of myself as an agency, your point of contact, you can speak to them between 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. That's it. Whereas I'll be completely honest, I regularly speak to one of my clients on Sunday evening, 10 o'clock. We'll have a phone call, 9 o'clock, because I value his business. He's a lot more successful than I am. And I feel like I've got a lot to learn from him. And if I'm not willing to take his call at 9 o'clock on a Sunday evening, I'm sure someone else will. And I don't want to lose out to the competition. So, I'm super flexible, man. I had a 2-hour work call with a client this morning before I spoke to you because I care. So, I've got the kind of insight into the automotive industry, and I just feel like I'm a lot more flexible with, when I speak to my clients, and because I want to deliver results.
I suppose as well for the industry that you work in, that would make me as a customer more comfortable, because I know that you're based just in this niche. Whereas like you were saying, there's different like sort of like you say, you don't want to call yourself an agency, but they work in different places, whereas you're focused on this. So I know coming to you, I'm going to a specialist in that.
Yeah. Like how could I market audio microphones? Because I know nothing about audio microphones. So therefore, even if although they wouldn't, if a company that manufactured microphones approached me, I'd have to say, no, sorry, because I'm just not interested. Do you know what I mean? Simple as that.
I think that side of it's really, really important.
Yeah.
What's your most effective way of landing clients? Is it, I think you touched on before, is it word to mouth? That's your most effective, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm slightly flexible. Predominantly, most of my clients are monthly retainers, where I charge a fixed fee for a set number of services. However, with a project I'm starting on recently, because of kind of budget constraints, my retainer is a lot lower, and I have negotiated a commission structure. So when I generate a lead through social media and that converts into a customer for his business, I get a commission for each of those each of those customers, which is not something I massively want to promote. And to be honest, for a lot of businesses, I probably wouldn't agree to. But with him, you know, I feel like we've got a good rapport already, and I just got a good vibe off him, and I know I can deliver results, and it makes sense for both of us. So sometimes that's a good way to get a win if, you know, they're daunted because straight out of the blue, they don't know me and I'm pitching a number. Sometimes it's easy to land a client if you say you're that confident, you'll get them results. So you do it on a commission-only basis. For the business, then you're a much lower risk because they're only paying you if you're getting results. And ultimately, if you're marketing a client or running advertising for a client, you need to get them results. Simple as that. Otherwise, they won't keep on using you.
Yeah, and I suppose like you were saying, if you know and you're confident you can deliver, that's a good way to create that partnership with that, you know, with someone you're going to want to be coming back to you.
Yeah.
Perfect. So the very, very last question, do you think you have to be an expert in a field when starting a business in that field?
I mean, I would say in relation to like what I do, digital marketing, I would say if you want to get into digital marketing, just like pick a niche. Pick a niche because then it's easier for you to get in front of your audience. But in terms of like, well, what's your opinion on that, Del? Because you're in healthcare before. I mean, am I right in saying before you set up your business, weren't you like didn't you do football semi-professionally or something?
Yeah. So I played football, but then like my answer to that would be to a certain extent, yes. Because like after I quit playing football at I think 20. Right. I didn't just go and sit up. I worked for about a year and a half with my mum, who's in the same industry, and I went there and I said to her, teach me everything. Teach me. I worked every single job from the bottom to the top. Teach me everything. How you manage finance. How you do. So I wasn't an expert, but I had a good understanding. So I don't think you have to be, you know, that an expert in the industry, but you have to have a good understanding of the actual industry and what's required. But then a lot of it, most things I didn't know I picked up, but I think you just have to have a basic understanding of what, and you need to know what you're going into. Because I think, you know, like in this day and age, entrepreneur's like the popular thing to do, like starting a business. But I think you need to kind of have an idea of what what you're kind of getting into. Like you know, you touched on before, the PR job really helped you for this. So you had some experience in that, and then you've then took it and grown it somewhere. So I think, you know, long story short, I think you do need to have some type of experience. I don't think you necessarily have to be a top expert, but you need to have some type of experience to then build upon.
Yeah, and then maybe I'm building on what you said. Maybe it's fine if you don't have any experience, but maybe if that industry really interests you and you've been kind of analysing it from afar, you know, reading industry material, speaking to people, you got contacts in that industry, so you don't have experience, but you're educated and informed and like connected, then I think it's fine to go into that industry. But if you're not, I think that's the main thing. You just have to be interested in whatever you do as a business owner, because otherwise you're not going to put the time into.
It has to be something that if you're not the person who's been working in that industry for a decade and then set up, it has to be something that really interests you, something that you've done a bit of research on. You're getting to know your stuff. So thanks for coming on. And then before we sort of go, where can everyone find you? Where can everyone find you on socials?
Yeah, so my website is www.superchargedmedia.co.uk. You can check out some of my case studies, kind of who I work with on there. Supercharged Media on Facebook and Instagram. Quite active on LinkedIn, so if you want to connect with me on there, just Tom Bromley. Be good to chat, share ideas, and that's it. So yeah, thanks for having me on, Del. Good to chat.
Cheers,
Appreciate
Tom. Cheers.
it.